Hi, Gerard and Pete again for episode 2 of Gadgets with Pete. Pete.
Hi there. Happy winter solstice for all of our Southern Hemisphere friends. Maybe a day early, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that's it's very timely for our next conversation, which I think is going to build off from the battery conversation. And I guess, for all of those that were very excited about the last Gadgets with Pete and gave us all these other suggestions, we'll get to them. We're kind of working our way through some of the gadgets that make up our Spectre slate first, and we'll come to those later. But anyway, Peter, so batteries last week, where do we go from here?
All right, let's get some charge in the battery. So much like last week where we spoke about the way you could do it and before and the way we do it these days, I'm going to start off with the most basic solar charge controller, which is here we have an example of a PWM.
Well, hang on a second, Pete. So,
go ahead.
Sorry, I'm a bit slow with these things. You're saying that the solar panel doesn't magically just plug into the battery and it doesn't work like that?
No, unfortunately not. Although I did try many times in the early part of my career too long ago. Solar panel might put out anywhere in the smaller panels 20 odd volts up to 40 volts with some of the larger panels we use. So that the lead acid that we spoke about being quite robust, they can in some cases take a very wide range of charge, but in most cases you want to really control that to ensure the longevity of the battery and the system so that the right amount of charge.
Okay, so panel, one of these things, battery. This is the one of these things conversations.
That's right. So pretty much mandatory to have in all but the most simplistic of solar garden light or something. So you want to have this so you can get the most out of your panel and maintain that charge once the battery is full. And the pulse width modulated, PWM, solar charge controller is much like the lead acid battery, ubiquitous. It's great for your maintain the charge on that generator battery, the irrigation controller you have in a back paddock, fit for purpose for a simple, not high demand application because these things are very, very cost effective, aka cheap, and they do the job. And for many years there, these were about the only choice unless you spent a lot of money for a very critical application. Most of the industry, folks like ourselves, we have hundreds of these out there in the field in our legacy fleet. Great workhorse, does the job very well. But you do not get the most you can out of that combination of panel and battery with the pulse width.
So if you wanted more, Pete, where would you turn?
I'm glad you asked, Gerard. Let's talk about maximum power point tracking. So here we have our lovely IP rated, Spectre branded. This is our large MPPT solar charge controller. So this guy is all about tracking the optimum balance between the current and voltage available of the panel. So for those non-engineers amongst us, power is current multiplied by voltage, and the varying output of the panel will have a different point where if you demand a bit more current and a bit less voltage or vice versa, you will find that perfect spot on the curve to get the most.
Okay, so this is like the shade on the panel, rain cloud comes past, any of those things that allows it to deal with.
Just find the sweetest of sweet spots, and this is the perfect time of year to be talking about that, because this guy here can mean 20 to 30% more output from that panel. So this time of year, when you are hungry for every single watt hour, every single amp hour that you can get out of a panel, when there might only be, in the southern states of Australia and New Zealand, South Island, there might effectively be about the equivalent of 1 hour of panel output in a day. So that's a rough figure we use when, let's say it was 100 watt panel, on a midwinter's day like today, there are cities, if you've got a bit of doom and gloom around in the sky, you might only get the equivalent of 100 watt hours. So that panel size times 100 watt hours, and if you have to run something for 24 hours in a day, we divide that 100 back by 24, that's the most we've got out of that panel for the whole day. If we can store all that charge, we can run a maximum of 4 watts over that 24 hours, which is not a lot. So we've got this is all about spending a little bit of extra money getting a bit more out of the system, keeping the panel size smaller, and really maximising that output, because that 1 hour a day of effective panel output is not a lot to work with. So we've got to make sure we're using every single scrap of energy that's available.
So anything else special about this particular controller?
Well, other than lovely Spectre branding, great work with great partners on these. Very common unit. You'll see these in a lot of retail stores in other configurations. There's a variety of sizes here. We get separate solar, battery, and load output. So these are self-resetting, they overcurrent, short circuit protected, all those things that we need so that we can put them far away and they'll protect themselves, reset themselves, and all manner of those weird and wonderful things that might go on inside of our system, whether it's snake eggs, a lady beetle infection, all those infestation, all those wonderful things that can happen out on site. And last but not least is telemetry. So we take in what we call RS485 Modbus, and that gives us a vast array of all the different information across that solar, battery and load. So we know what current, how much is being used, how much solar we've got, get a large amount of telemetry information on that, and that's something we take into our magic box that we might talk about in a future episode. So that's super important, so we can actually remotely diagnose where a system might have battery failing, issues with shade where we might not have been there for a couple of years. Of course, the trees have come up, so getting that sort of information there, temperature sensing. So range of nice things that we get in there for what is thankfully now, because of our close relationship with the partners who supply these, worked with us to create this plug-and-play compatibility with our overall modular power system. It's not because of that great relationship and the volumes we work in, we're no longer paying a massive premium over what we used to pay for these guys.
So
it's good for everybody, good for our customers, good for uptime.
Okay. So I guess if I was to summarise in my lay terms, MPPT power controllers will get you more power than a PWM will. And when we're trying to keep our things running in winter, it's very important to us. So we stand by MPPT. It's not quite Valvoline, but MPPT, if you know what I mean.
You know what he means.
And thanks again, Pete, for telling us everything about MPPT power controllers.
Beautiful. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you and good night.